PW Public Works meeting to order. First thing's going to be Parks, Rec, and Railroad. Turn it over to Mr. Benway.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First up, we have Justin Gagnon.
Oh, you know, I forgot to get approval of the minutes. I'll try that. Can I get approval of the minutes? Motion by Supervisor Frazier, seconded by Mr. Wild. All's in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Welcome, Justin.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
First thing I'll start off with, as of last week, there was still water over the rail just south of Thurman. As of yesterday, the river has receded and the water is no longer flooded the tracks. So, wide open there, we can get the section back open and we'll be back in business between Saratoga and North Creek. That's good news for us. I was going to share a clip with everybody, but I didn't know I had to bring a thumb drive for the monitors. But in 2015, we had a movie company come and produce, we were part of a movie production. It's called Off the Rails. They filmed some scenes. How appropriate, huh? They filmed some of the scenes down at Saratoga Station. Our train was in that. The movie was made for Lifetime, and it's now on air, or whatever you want to call it. They're showing the movie on TV now, so. And if you happen to notice the conductor in it, I don't want any special treatment now that I'm a big star. So.
You have to sign off?
I did have to sign off, yeah. Okay. That aside, freight. We have been working with Barton Mines for the past month on a special move that's going from their North River plant down to Atlantic Beach, Virginia. They have accepted the rates from Canadian Pacific. The loads are moving ahead. This will be the first long-term freight contract for the rail line. The movements will start in the next couple of weeks and last through August of 2019. And this is the freight contract that we've been waiting for. It's going to be regular freight service. These aren't test runs or anything like that. This is the real thing. So, looking forward to working with Barton Mines on that. Group sales we're booking group sales for 2018. Tickets are going up for sale soon. I think I reported last month as well that the operations plans have been finalized, so we're all set there. Another big development is the former mine at the end of our line, the Sanford Lake branch, Tahawus Mines, has been purchased by a private entity. The sales final was purchased by Paul Mitchell Logging, outfit out of Tupper Lake, New York. Paul Mitchell operates a stone operation out of the mines. He's been doing it up there for about 15 years. Hauls out about between 20 and 30,000 tons per year for DOT contracts mostly, and small aggregate production. But Paul purchased the mine specifically to grow that business, and he is also looking towards shipping stone out by rail. That was a big motivator behind him purchasing that property, was that there was an active rail line in place and a means to move the stone in large quantities. He is also talking about moving in some inbound shipments. It's still too early to discuss that in any type of detail, but he's looking at inbound and outbound loads out of Tahawus. So it's very encouraging news. We've been meeting with him. I met with him up in Tupper Lake. Our marketing team has been speaking to him. So very encouraging development up there. Prior to that, when National Lead still owned it, they weren't marketing the stone. Any marketing that was done out of there was done almost exclusively by the railroad. So now that the person who actually owns the stone is also looking to market it, that's pretty positive. It also gets rid of two other portions of the rate, which helps the dollar per ton come back down to possibly where we need it to be, so that we can get that stone moving. So all this coming together is excellent news for moving forward and developing something out of that site, which is what we've been trying to do since 2011. That's all I have for now.
That's great.
Mr. Wild?
Mr. Chairman, thanks. Justin,
I have a sense you have a temperature of the board. The inbound traffic or whatever it might be, do you think this is going to cause any heartburn on the board?
No.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I got it. I mean, obviously, you know, there's some revenue issues with the county, and with this new outbound freight coming in, when can we expect that those revenue issues would be cleaned up?
That's an interesting question for me to answer, Kevin, but, you know, certainly it would help the situation. I know Mr. Ellis reached out to Matt. So he's the guy that's got to answer you know, any questions about revenue coming in.
Well, can you relay that message? You know, it's a big concern of mine,
Mhm.
because we are owed some money. This looks very promising. The Martin's Mines you said was going to start
A couple of weeks, yes.
2 weeks. That's a definite.
Not a definite 2 weeks, but it's going to start. It might be 2 weeks, 4 weeks, but it is going to start.
Okay. And approximately how many loads a week, do you know yet?
In my conversation with Barton's, they didn't want any specifics about
Okay.
the amount of commodities that were going out.
But I have to be upfront with everybody, you know, as long as we're still have outstanding revenue we're owed, it makes it very difficult for me to get too enthused about this. I mean, I've been one pushing freight. You know, I told you in 1992, I was told by Canadian Pacific over there when I worked at IP, you know, it needed freight. This is excellent, but I just don't know how long we can hold out waiting for the revenues that are owed us. You know, and so that message needs to get to Mr. Ellis.
Yesterday I spoke to Mr. Ellis and I relayed that exactly, the sentiment of the board, and he is definitely working on, he knows it's a priority. All I have. I don't have a date. When that,
Justin, would it be reasonable for you to just ask Mr. Ellis to show up next month to
I can
talk
ask.
about the finances?
Absolutely, I can ask that. I don't know his availability, but I will ask.
Maybe not in person, but maybe at least give us an update on this?
Yeah,
I don't think that's an unreasonable request.
absolutely.
anybody else? Mr. Chairman?
I mean, it would seem to me that if there's additional consideration that's being, I guess, unofficially requested relative to the existing operating contract, then I think that, you know, this committee should be thinking about what additional consideration we may want under the existing arrangement. These are two-way streets as well.
I think it's spelled out, Ron, in our contract.
Yeah, no, the process is clearly spelled out in terms of rectifying an issue associated with the contract. But I'm saying when that doesn't happen, then it puts us in a difficult spot, as you pointed out, in a difficult spot. So if there is lack of communication or some other means of consideration that's being officially or unofficially being requested, then we should be thinking in terms of what consideration, additional consideration we're looking for. This is
Sean.
we've had an issue all along with the storage facilities that these things tend to come at us like in one direction and one direction only. And, I don't think a successful partnership operates that way. I think a successful partnership operates both ways. So,
Yeah, and I hate to pick on you as the agent for Mr. Ellis, but, you know, storing of the rail cars was a revenue generator, alleged revenue generator for the rail line. So, you know, that should be shared with us, and that hasn't happened yet, to my knowledge.
Claudia, you got your hand up first.
I don't know if you have this on the agenda, but another thing that I'd like to see the committee consider
I'm gonna bring that up.
Just so that we aren't taken off guard.
I have a couple.
Sure. Thank you.
I actually have a couple of attorneys that we can look at. Mike?
Mr. Chairman, maybe you're talking in code about what I was going to ask about, but have we responded with any kind of grievance or whatever it might be to Mr. Ellis from the contract? So we've that kind of sets things in motion legally. We have done that already?
Yes.
You know, and the next step is,
Waiting for his response, right?
Yeah.
is there a time frame there?
Yeah, I believe there was a time frame, right, Mary?
Yes. 31 days ago, we wrote a letter to the railroad, their general counsel, telling them that there were breaches. We asked them to cure. According to the contract, they had 30 days to cure the breaches. That expired yesterday.
Without a response?
They responded and said they would do everything they could to cure. That means fix the breaches of the contract, and they had until yesterday to fix those breaches. And I don't believe that it's been done, but I'm not 100% sure. I have to check with the treasurer.
So then our next step is like a foreclosure kind of deal?
Well, then the contract is breached, and the committee can decide what they want to do. At that point, you can terminate, or you can really decide what you want to do at this point.
Did I understand that correctly? As of today, that contract is breached?
I believe so, unless the treasurer received payment or reports yesterday.
Mr. Loeb?
Till we find out, we certainly have access to the treasurer. We can find out right now and then make a decision.
She will go get him. Get her. Get him.
What's the pleasure of the committee? Do we want to nullify the contract? Do we want to go forward? Do we want to give it more time?
Yeah, I think we need to go into executive session.
Yeah.
Discuss the-
Why? It's getting fun.
Huh?
Why? It's getting fun.
Just wanted to give you a taste, Don.
Thanks. They're gonna hear about it
Check for performance.
Is there a motion to move to executive session, or
What, do you want to wait till, we have to wait till,
probably should,
we better
right?
wait.
Would you like to call Mr. Ellis and see if he wants to wire some money?
I guess we'll wait to hear back from the treasurer, and then I would be happy to give him a call.
He's still paying for those cars, they're still there, right?
Fix the track.
Yeah, I was going to say, Justin, maybe you want to give him a heads up.
That didn't happen?
Yes, still on vacation.
Okay, before we go into executive session, let's,
Now you're going to say, let's just...
before we go into executive session, I want, Kevin, you had,
I did. Justin, we sent an email last week. Well, let me back up a little bit. I know that there was an incident on the rail on 28. I know that the engine came off the rail. I believe by now you guys have got it back on and moved back to the engine house or back to North Creek. There was an issue with the rail in there that I sent you an email on. I had the copies of it on it, and I have not, except for yesterday, you saying give me a call.
Yep.
I'd like a response on that if possible.
It's being fixed today.
thank you. Okay, that being said, we need an executive session to talk about the contractual performance of a particular corporation.
I'll move that.
Mr. Loeb, seconded by Mr. Wild. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried. We're in executive session.
Also, just so you know, the attorney that I've been talking to is given me the name of the rail attorney.
Brad, we're out of executive session. There's no action taken. We gotta move forward.
Okay.
So somebody want to make a motion? Do we have a quorum now? Did everybody leave? Yeah. Yeah, we have 6. 6 and the administrator. We
He
have,
doesn't count.
we have Jean.
No, you're good.
No, I have 6 without the administrator.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, you're good.
All right, I'm good to go. Does somebody want to make a motion
For what?
to hire, to authorize the...
Oh, I'll make that I can't, I'm not on the committee.
I don't
You don't need a
need
res...
a
I don't think
Okay,
it needs
we're all
it.
set. Okay.
No, we don't.
I don't.
All right, we don't need, we're all set.
We gotta do glamping.
Don't you want to make that available though, after Mary does?
No, we gotta get it, we gotta find out, have an initial conversation.
We done
We're
with
gonna be waiting 30 days, so we come back to committee.
No, you can always schedule committee meetings
Financing?
anytime.
What did you do?
I could bring it through finance if it's authorization to hire an attorney.
I like that, Matt.
Most people are here for personnel tomorrow, could always maybe have information tomorrow. Call a special meeting. Okay. Nothing else on the road. Do you have anything else on the railroad?
You.
You, Justin.
Oh, me. I think we've talked about enough.
I know we have. Thank you.
So nothing came out of executive session then, so that I need to report back on? Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Okay. You want to move?
Chairman, the next I have a resolution to enter an agreement from the RFP, which is due tomorrow for the glamping. So far, Julie Butler said that we have not received anybody yet, but tomorrow's the deadline, so
So we can authorize you to go ahead and award to the...
Correct.
Okay.
for the best.
Lowest responsible.
Somebody want to, somebody like to make that motion?
Sure, I'll make a motion. So
Mr.
we can talk
Wild,
about it.
seconded by Mr. McGowan. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried.
That does address the first referral. The second was for Mr. Tennyson to have an estimated cost for tying the county fairgrounds into the sewer project.
And I have that, I had the engineering department as well as our highway manager, who's got extensive background in putting in pipe in the ground. He had completed an estimate for me. The only caveat to the estimate would be there's a $5,000 cost if we directional bore underneath County Route 10. Otherwise, if we don't do that and open cut the road, the total cost would be $11,000 with the $5,000 on there, it'd be $16,000. The only reason we wouldn't want to open cut that road is we just paved that road last year.
I think that's an incredible bargain.
We need a motion, Mr. Chairman?
Yes. I mean, just the cleaning of the septics, pumping out over time.
Yes, you got a motion.
Yeah.
That's
do
the
I have a
motion
second?
And to
We
do
got it.
the extra 5,000 so we don't
All
destroy the
those in
road.
favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next.
Okay, Mr. Chairman. Next, I'd like to recognize two of my employees, Karen Beatty and Peter Olacheski. They're naturalists at Up Yonder Farm. They were selected by the Bolton Central School to receive a Capital Area School Development Association's called Friends of Education Award on the recommendation of Michael Graney, Superintendent, and Chad Shippey. He's the principal. Both of these are from Bolton School System. The two employees were recognized for their dedication of enriching the lives of students within their community. On February 15th, a Friends of Education Awards dinner was held in Albany where they each received their award. And underneath it is the Shippey is on the end, on your far right, and then that would be Karen, and that is Pete. And also I have, this Sunday is our annual Pancake Breakfast and Maple Festival. We've been doing this, according to Matt Sproul, for 15 years. This will be our 15th year. So if you don't have anything to do and you want to come out and see us, I'll be making pancakes. That's it,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chairman.
I did say that at lunchtime, didn't you?
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's all I have. Thank you.
Bravo to the two employees.
That will move right into the Public Works, Solid Waste.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first item that we have is a request for contract for electronic recycling. This is a rebid, and Julie Butler is here. I'll have her talk about it. But the intent of this contract is to be used by the counties and the municipal subdivisions. I'll let you jump in.
Yeah, we're opening this bid this afternoon. We have received a couple of bids, so I don't anticipate any problems. As all the supervisors know, I sent out the specifications, requested, suggestions, comments. One thing we did require this time was for vendors to go to each transfer station to make sure they were well aware of, the restrictions and the problems. So hopefully it won't be a problem in the exit.
Mr. Greggy? No, sir.
You're welcome. About it, Amy. Yeah.
I have one question. How soon will they be able to start?
We won't have an official authorization resolution until the March meeting.
Okay, thank you. Okay, entertain a motion. Mr. Wild?
Sure.
Mr. Loeb?
That's a great
Any
idea.
discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
How fast can you do TBW, Kevin?
I want to say fast, but there's
Thank
a
you,
lot
Julie.
to it. I'll try to go as fast as I can. I'm going to skip over page 2, and I'm actually going to take a chance to look at page 3. Page 3 is a list of, as Mr. Conover said in his state of the county address at the beginning of the year, put out paving projects to contractors bid. One of the reasons we do that is one, to enhance our paving projects, 2, to take a little bit of the work off of our guys in our department, that we get a better product. So real quick, looking at that table, I labeled 3 columns, 1, 2, and 3 up top. The county DPW, or the engineering department, goes out every year and reviews our roads. We do a pavement evaluation on all 247 miles of road. And from that evaluation, we pick what roads that we're going to do for the following year that we take to budget. When we estimate those projects, we estimate the projects based on materials and contracts and external rental equipment, such as the rollers or the paver we rent. And then if we have milling or reclamation on it, that's the contracts. And then the materials would be pavement, stone, whatever else we may use. As you see that number in that first column, and I'll look at East Shore Drive, is $197,000. That's for basically us to do the paving work. In the second column, the total estimated project cost includes the contractual, everything that I had in the first column, the contractual services, the external equipment rentals, the materials. What the second one adds into there, though, is the DPW labor, internal equipment rentals, such as any type of excavator or anything that we do for any of the, say, pipe work or ditch work or tree work that we do along the end of the road, as well as pavement markings. So you can see there's a big difference as far as what we budget and what the total estimated project cost. Now, as far as labor and equipment, we account for those when we submit for CHIPS, but the labor is already budgeted every year as part of the department's budget. So we just, in reality, it's a journal entry, move money from regular labor into those projects to cover that cost. The final column there, column 3, is the bids that we put out for this year, and I'll get to explain why I picked these 5 roads in a minute. The bids that we put out for this year, and this basically includes contractor to furnish all labor and equipment and materials to do the entire project. The only difference between what the contractor does and what we do is in the total estimated project column under number 2, we do all the pipe work. As far as the contractor, they don't do any of the pipe work of these projects. We actually do that ahead of time, and then they just come in and do whatever the reconstruction or milling or filling or reclamation of the road that would require. So from that, I took a look at the bids and have recommended these 5 projects as projects to be awarded to the contractors. We had 4 contractors bid on the project. Of the 4 that bid on the project, 1 contractor was the low on every single project. These 5 I chose just for certain reasons, and I listed that in the comment column. I'll go through them real quick. East Shore Drive is very close to East Twin River Road. It would make sense to do those both at the same time. The contractor would be right there. He'd move from one operation of milling and reclamation and then going straight into the other one, doing the same thing and following up with the paving.
Sure you did.
I just want to mention, I had nothing to do with the decisions
gonna look at that.
on these roads, Mr. Merlino.
The next 3 projects, Schooner River Road, Warrensburg Road, and South Johnsburg Road, are basically high-speed, high-volume roads that would be, to have the expedited construction done by a contractor would be much better than us. I mean, we would take a little more time than the contractor. The contractor, they want to make money on it. They come in, do the work, and get out as quick as they can. From that, you'll see down below that it says the additional funds needed to award all 5 projects, 4 projects, 3-2. We did not budget that amount of money. So these dollar amounts down below would have to come from somewhere within the county. We don't have this money in our budget. I talked to Frank Thomas a little bit about this. He had asked me to check in with our fiscal manager because we did a lot of moves at the end of the year. All the moves that were done at the end of the year were moved into projects. There was no extra money. So I guess the decision we made before we can do resolution on page 2 to award the contract is how many of these roads you would like to recommend, or how many of these roads would you like the contractor to do? And then we need to come up with some money to have the contractor.
Mr. Lobat.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Brad.
I recall the budget analysis.
Like a kid.
What have I
Budget
from?
analysis that came out of the Treasurer's Office, that we had $4 million last year at DPW, and we weren't able to spend it. Isn't there a chunk of money that's available already?
You want to explain that, because that's been a source of...
I will explain it. There were a couple projects towards the end of last year, one of them being Main Street, which was a significant project. In fact, it was a $500,000 project. We held off on last year because we were doing plans for that project. We didn't get plans completed to that project till late in the year. With that being said, there was some discussions that the town of Johnsburg wanted to put a water line in within that area where we were doing reconstruction. So it didn't make sense to us to get that project done to have them come back the following year, rip up our road and put the water line in. The water line would have to be more so in the center of the road. The other project that I don't think got finished last year was East Shore Drive, and that was the one that was added on later in the year, and Dodge on a Super ran out of time.
Mr. Wild?
Mr. Chairman, Kevin, if I heard you correctly, you said that the differences between column 1 and column 2 was basically our labor.
Labor and internal rentals, such as
Things that are already in the budget.
right, trucks and things like
Okay.
that we associate them with the project. Yep.
But we already either own those trucks or have whatever, or have that labor in-house.
That's right.
So you're looking for extra money. Well, what about this labor that we're not going to be using?
The labor is used. The labor is what you budgeted for the department for labor.
If we use the subcontractor, we're not using the labor then, right?
We're still doing the labor because the subcontractor is only doing the contract work, which would be milling or reclamation. We come back in and do all the paving. I guess I didn't explain. We budget, in our department, we budget labor every year.
Mhm.
And it depends, and I haven't been part of the budget operation. It's whatever we feel that the labor is going to be for the department that year.
Yeah.
For these projects, just because we have a contractor come in, doesn't necessarily take our labor away from those projects. We don't budget the labor per project, we just budget the labor for the department. So there's not I necessarily want to say a savings in labor. I put the labor into those projects so that when we submit for CHIPS money, we include the labor of our department into those projects. But we don't budget for that every year because it's already budgeted in the regular salaries in the department.
So, if we contract these out, that labor that would have been doing it for the county is going to be doing something else.
is going to be doing maintenance on other
Right.
projects throughout the county.
I think that's what you're getting to. The savings would only be if you cut the corresponding amount in labor on the
So
other
the
side.
question is, why would we contract this out if it's going to cost us so much more?
Something we've looked at, do you want me to
Go ahead.
answer?
No problem.
Something that we did when we had money available in our budget above what we had scheduled, and that we didn't want to hire more people to do these jobs. We wanted to get them done. It does cost a little more, but they were done. So we increased our capacity without taking on employees.
I'm on the budget committee also, so I'll ask Frank how this happened so I can understand it better. But Frank, I'm just curious why we didn't budget the full amount, what we're anticipating spending, versus such a significantly lower amount.
Well, we budgeted full amount. I mean, we budgeted so much for paving, and what the DPW does with it. I don't sit there and budget each one of these
Okay.
projects. That's up
So
to-
Kevin, if I'm not mistaken, you're asking for an extra $271,000 basically to do what you want to get done this year.
If I
That
recommend...
was not budgeted.
If I recommend, if you want to go with 5 roads, and the cost that we need to budget more would come down depending on the number of roads that we choose.
Frank?
I did take $200,000 out of the paving, because during the budget process, we closed a number of capital projects that had been ongoing. They amounted to $1.3 million. However, some of that money had to go back to debt service, some of it went to general fund, some of it went back to various places. What was left is funding the capital projects for the bridges and at the airport. $200,000 that I took out of the paving didn't go back. I had done it out of the capital projects, the $200,000 didn't go back. So, whether that accounts for this or not, I don't know, I can look at it that way. Not necessarily.
Mr. Loeb? Unless you had
Mr. Chairman, I'm all for paving and bringing everything up to the level that we want, and all 4 quarters of the county. But talk about the budgets. If we have the money, let's spend it. If we don't have the money, then we gotta wait till next year. Unless there's a priority, if there's a high priority that we need to pull the money from someplace, but it looks like we're writing a blank check. Somebody's gonna come in tomorrow and say, well, I need this money. I don't know where we're going from this. It's outside that budget that we've already planned.
I want to interject, Matt, but these aren't the 5 projects that we have for the county this year. We actually have 18 projects. These are 5 that we were suggesting to go to a contractor, or 4 or 3 or 2, which maybe none if you don't decide to go any. Again, as I said, based on what we have done in the past couple of years, we've gotten a better product. Our staff, from maybe not overwhelming them, and we've gotten a good product from the contractors as well. Again, we don't have to go with any of these. Our guys will be pushing the limit this year. My highway manager and myself have talked about relieving at least the paving crew from doing some of the extra work that they normally do, which is the driveways and the shoulder back up, and having the crews themselves in those areas take on that work. They would just strictly do mainline paving. That will ease the burden on them a little bit for that work. They're a great crew. They did a phenomenal job with paving last year. I can't say enough about the work that they did last year, and I'm sure they'll do the same for us this year. It's a significant amount of work, and as you alluded to yourself, from 2008 to 2013, we were, and I don't want to necessarily say shortchanged, but we were given CHIPS money and CHIPS money alone, and that was not keeping up with the roads within the county. And we're slowly getting back. I'm still behind. I'm not where I should be, but we're getting there. And using some of this contract to do some of the work is helping us out.
Dennis?
The philosophy behind this was that we wanted to put some out private contract. increase the number of roads we pave, to give us a chance to see, compare what we were doing with what you could do with private contractor. So I think this is the initial year of doing that, and that's what it's all about.
So it's a qualification, basically, to check the quality of the contractor?
And quality of what we're getting from the county.
And how do we measure that? And how long does it take to get the measure?
Well, I think, fortunately, with paving, you can tell pretty quick.
Do you tell pretty quickly?
You can.
Yeah.
You can tell by that. I mean, and as I said, the paving crew last year, comparing to what the contractor did last year, we were hand in hand with what the contractor did last year.
We have two crews or just one?
Just one paving crew.
Are there core samples done too, or?
We typically don't do core samples. We have a contractor or a term agreement with a testing company that can do core samples for us if we so choose. We haven't had to use them. We haven't had a lot of issues with the roads.
So basically, how do we just see how they...
Visual.
Visual and how they hold up?
Yep.
Mr. Loeb?
Mr. Chairman, the question on the table is, do we want to pay for this or not? I asked the budget, can we pay for it? If we can pay for it, I say we should go for it. I would make a motion to pay for it.
Mr. Thomas?
I was just going to say that last year we did take, I believe it was $577,000 out of fund balance to add to the paving project. So the total cost of this is $171. I don't want to make light of it, but I don't think it would be a stretch to be able to do that.
And I'll make a motion that we approve this payment.
Do we have a second? Mr. Dickinson, any further discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to just request that next year we don't take any money out of the general fund and we try to budget for it accordingly, if we can.
Take money out of the general fund.
So, well, that's what we're doing, is we're finding some money, right?
Oh, today, you mean? You're taking it out of the...
Out of fund balance, right?
unassigned fund
Okay, I'm
balance.
sorry. Terminology.
Part of that discussion too was waiting to see what was unspent in our previous budget too, I think. So it wasn't, you don't know, I mean, sometimes your revenues, I mean, everything's estimated. So if you can do more roads though, without increasing the budget, increasing labor, I think that's a win.
Chairman, in regards to the question that was raised by Mr. Weil, it's very difficult to go year to year because you're not sure what the state's going to give you in their consolidated improvement CHIPS monies with it too. That can change and that can vary. I've seen times where the city had gotten an allotment of an extra $100,000, and I've seen times where the city had gotten reduced. So it's really difficult to plan to say, you know, currently we're not going to take $500,000 because we don't know what we're getting to help us fund the road improvements that we're planning to do. I just thought I'd add that.
It's just fiscal management, right? We need to do our best to try to keep everything under control.
I'll just add to what Jack says, is he's right. The last couple of years, we've had a winter recovery money, the winter damage, and then we have had our normal chips. Our normal chips have since I've been here, has not changed. We sit at approximately $1.25 million every year in chips, and that's it. The winter recovery helped us for the last couple of years. Now the winter recovery went away this year, but Pave New York came out, so they're giving us, I think, an extra $375,000 for Pave New York now.
Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried.
The next item on page 4 of the agenda is just the Treasurer's Office has asked us every year to see if we can start closing up some of the capital projects. As you see, we've got probably 10 of them listed on here. Those projects will go back to their fund source. 4 of them are to debt services. The other 2 go to transfers to capital projects, and then 1 goes back to the general fund.
Moved by Mr. Loeb.
I move that was, some of these things were on here 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Do I have a second? Mr. Dickinson, all those in favor, signify.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
The next item we have on the agenda is to authorize the chairman of the board to execute an easement with utility company in connection with aerial utility lines spanning county right-of-way. Niagara Mohawk is proposing to, actually, they don't have an easement with us right now on property up in Johnsburg where the rail yard is. They're asking for a 20-foot easement. They do have utility lines there. They're just making a minor change with their utility line to move it. It's a 20-foot wide easement, as I said. They're cleaning it up because they didn't have one with us. And the town of Johnsburg, they're going across their property as well, and they've just entered into a permit easement with them as well.
Supervisor Loeb moved it, seconded by Supervisor Wild. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
The next three items on the agenda on 11, 18, and 19 all are relative to the federal aid project that we have on the Grant Lake Bridge over on Palisades Road. This is to do with right-of-way. We're ready to start the right-of-way process on this project. We just got a supplemental agreement with DOT to start doing the right-of-way. And that would mean going out and doing the negotiations and making the offerings to the property owners. Some of that work included some extra design work as well, which is being covered by DOT. For the new members of the committee, this is a federal highway project, and it's an 80-15-5 funding source. 80 of it is federal highway, 15 is New York State, and it's 5% for the county. And the following two resolutions attached to it are to increase the capital project for the amount of the supplemental agreement with DOT and to enter into a supplemental agreement with Floyd Albert, who's our consultant on the project, to do this work.
All three?
Yep, all three.
Okay, motion by Mr. Dickinson, seconded by Mr. Loeb. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
On page 26 is a resolution to amend the county budget. This is from an insurance recovery payment on a sign that was hit. We have to amend the revenue appropriation codes. The total amount of $168.
Moved by Supervisor Loeb, seconded by Supervisor Merlino. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
The next one is on page 30. This is again another cleanup the Treasurer's Office has asked us to do from 2017 road projects to transfer some salaries and equipment rentals into the projects. Again, it's just a journal entry cleanup for the Treasurer's Office.
Moved by Supervisor Loeb, seconded by Supervisor Wild. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
The last item on page 31 is a notice of intent to fill a vacant position. I believe the clerk has most signed off on it already. The confidential assistant to the superintendent has not necessarily resigned. She's transferring to another department within the county. She gave me her 2 weeks notice as of Friday. So this is so I can back to the position.
Moved by Supervisor Loeb, seconded by Supervisor Dickinson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Do you have anybody in particular you're looking at?
No, not yet. The last page is, of course, the DPW overtime that we've had for the year. I don't have the fuel reports on there, but we're only the first month into the year. I don't think we have an issue with fuel yet. The information for discussion in Bridge, New York, most of you have already sent a email to, at least to the towns, for the Bridge, New York money. This is a chance for municipalities can apply for a total of 4 bridges and 6 culverts over the next 2 years. The bridges are federally funded with a 95.5 match from the county, and the culverts are 100% state funded. We are putting in for, I want to say, 2 bridges and 5 culverts. I believe the town of Horicon is putting in for a culvert as well. The max funding for bridges is $5 million. For the culverts, it's $1 million. Within this Bridge New York, this will include all engineering, preliminary and final design, right-of-way, and construction inspection with construction. I passed it out to everyone. It's a great opportunity to get some culverts repaired or bridges repaired if you have any in your towns. the county can't necessarily do the work. We can assist or advise, but DOT has hired a consultant, I believe Clough Harbor is one of the consultants, to assist any towns if they'd like. They can even assist putting your applications together. The only pitfall is you will not get reimbursed for them helping with the application. They'll reimburse you for everything else, but the upfront cost for the application they will not. But there's not a lot to the application. It's very minor. But as I said, it's definitely worth it, and the awards are expected sometime late this summer.
Thank you for reaching out to the town highway supers and helping them out with this. Is there anything further from the committee? Motion adjourned.
I vote yes.